Hello friends and welcome back to my homestead. Today I'm in the kitchen because I'm about to make my homemade crackers, but not the crackers that you think about, the ones that come from a grocery store, the circle, the squares with little holes in them. No, not that kind. I am talking about repurposing day-old bread that is kind of stale. It was baked yesterday. So what can you do with bread that is no longer fresh? Should you throw it away? Well, unfortunately, that's what we often see being done today in our culture, where in fact we can actually repurpose them in making them into what almost looks like a crouton, but not exactly. In my language, we call them suhari. Suhari means a dried bread that will have a very, very long shelf life, as long as it's properly dried and properly stored, as long as there's no moisture introduced to it. See, historically speaking, suhari, or these dried crouton crackers, I don't know how to translate them. I tried to Google it. I couldn't find the proper translation. These suhari have literally saved my family in the past during famine time. And people often would dry them, store them, hide them, even if they had to, or use them for long travel because they would be very light, very portable, and you can rehydrate them into soup, or you can literally just eat them with tea. I know that they also became almost like, instead of chips, because back in the old Soviet Union, we didn't have chips, the ones that we have here in the US, but we would have this dried bread, and if it was seasoned with a little bit of garlic, a little bit of salt, people would eat it as a snack. I know men like to drink it, eat it when they were drinking beer, something like that. But I grew up eating suhari with tea. As a matter of fact, when my family were immigrating from the old Soviet Union, my mom didn't know what to pack, and as a mother, as a wife, she was worried, how am I going to feed my family as we're traveling? And it took us a long time to travel. Now, we had no idea what we were going into, and we didn't know if we're going to be fed or not. So my mom is the old school woman who knew that she needed to provide for her family. She baked a lot of bread, and we sliced it and we dried it. We dried it into small pieces. We packaged them in bags, and when we were traveling through the entire Europe, we were eating those crackers with tea. Isn't that amazing? So let me show you how I'm going to turn this stale bread into crackers that we can use later on. So what we're going to start with is we need to preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 180 Celsius if you're using Celsius. And then we need a day-old bread or couple of day-old bread, but I'm not talking about that fake bread. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the real bread, and this is a real bread. So make sure there's still no mold on it, nothing like that. And you can slice it into any shapes you want. If you're thinking of making them into croutons, you can literally cut them into little cubes. But I like to cut them into little slices, something about like this, that I can actually use them for tea. So I'm going to be laying them on a baking sheet like this. I'm going to be laying them on the baking sheet, and I always line my baking sheets with parchment paper, and I'm just going to be lining them here in a single layer, just like this. My oven has already been preheating, and just like this. So they will still have plenty of air space in between. I'm not going to pile them up in many layers, just a single layer, just like that. All right, so this is a beautiful Italian bread that has some whole wheat mixed with white wheat bread flour, and I'm just going to be putting them all on the sheet like this. Now, the reason why I'm not putting any seasoning on it is because I want to keep it plain. If you want to, this is a good time to sprinkling them with salt or with some other spices, but I want to keep them plain. I am not putting any oil on them. Why? Because oil will make it go rancid fast and not give it a long shelf life. But if you want to, you can turn them into like salt and some paprika and some other garlic. Those go very well with soups, with as for dips, something like that, or even on top of a salad as croutons. But I'm just going to keep them plain because that's how I like to keep them plain. All right, so one sheet is done, and I'm going to put it in the oven for about 20 minutes, and I'm going to keep an eye on it. I will open the oven door every so often just to release any kind of moisture because I want them to turn completely. See how they're still nice and soft? Well, I want them to be nice and hard completely. And the reason why I like to do a 350 Fahrenheit oven is because I want to give them a little bit of color. All right. And I'm going to set the timer for about half an hour. I will keep checking on it to make sure it's okay and not burning. Okay, so the first ones are out, and obviously my oven is very uneven because look at these. These are nice and brown and these are still pale, but they're all very, very dry, and I just tested them by breaking, so they're nice and dry. Now listen, at this point they're still very warm, and it's not a good idea to store them at this point because they can produce moisture as they're cooling off in a container. So I'm gonna let them sit on this baking sheet and completely cool off, and I will store them away tomorrow. Okay friends, so these guys have cooled off since yesterday. They are nice and dry and totally crisp now. Okay, zero moisture in them. So let me show you how we consume these suhari, the bread crackers in my Slavic culture. I have this blueberry jam that I made back in June, I think. It's absolutely wonderful. It was no cooking method and it's delicious. Nice and crunchy, just like I remember. Really, really good. Really good. So we eat the suhari with tea, coffee. Also, you can put it in your soup or in a salad like croutons. These are not seasoned. And if you have stale bread, say raisin bread or cinnamon bread, even better, because that's going to be almost like a dessert. And in my culture, we do consume a lot of tea, so this is a perfect way. So friends, I'm going to be storing this away now in a large container, okay? Because I want to be careful. I don't want any moisture to collect in it because they are like little sponges. They can actually attract and collect moisture, and I don't want to do that. You can always store them in a paper container of some sort, like a paper bag, but I'm going to store them in this large container. And trust me, this will not last long in my family at all, because we're going to be breaking that in our soup and in other things. So friends, I hope you are encouraged to save and repurpose day-old bread and don't throw it away, because there are ways to utilize it. So please share with me what else you can use this stale bread for. Is it for crackers? Is it for bread pudding? Or bread croutons? You let me know. Please share with me in the comments below. On this note, friends, thank you for watching, and I hope you're encouraged and try something new.